As we mentioned earlier, the House passes a 2-year spending deal, even though several GOP lawmakers weren't pleased with that agreement. Representative Paul Ryan says the deal is no good, and House Speaker John Boehner, well, he agrees with him. Senator Rand Paul threatened to filibuster the idea when it comes to the upper chamber next week, but he since has backed off from that. The deal lifts spending limits on defense and other domestic programs. It also raises the debt ceiling, but conservative talk show host Rush Limbaugh says the budget deal paves the way for Hillary Clinton to take the White House next year.
The Republican Party cannot campaign by running around blaming the Democrats for destroying the budget, for overspending, for threatening the very fabric economically of the country. They can't do it.
Limbaugh says the Democratic Party and frontrunner Hillary Clinton pose a threat to the country's future, as you heard, because of their, quote, runaway spending, their expansion of the welfare state, the expansion of the entitlement state, and the creation of more and more dependence. As it turns out, most Americans want the government to shut down to get a handle on spending. A new poll shows about 65% of Americans would favor a government shutdown if it resulted in spending cuts.
We now welcome in Sarah Westwood, investigative reporter from the Washington Examiner. We'll talk more about the budget deal in just a second. But first, Sarah, let's talk Paul Ryan. He thinks he can change the way the House does its business. He got 200 votes today, according to the count there. Does he have the support he needs to really make the changes he says he wants to make?
Well, it's clear that there will be some struggles to get things back to regular order the way conservatives want. But you have to keep in mind the secretive way that this budget deal was negotiated was part of the reason why John Boehner is stepping down in the first place, because he has conducted this sort of top-down, crisis-driven negotiations in the past that conservatives don't like. But in a sense, Boehner's trying to clear the deck for Paul Ryan to sort of get all of the dirty work out of the way so Paul Ryan can start on a new leaf. And in a way, Boehner doesn't really have anything to lose by hammering out an unpopular deal, and that's exactly what he's done here. Yeah,
Boehner lauded praise upon Paul Ryan, but Paul Ryan, kind of gave him a backhanded compliment saying things are going to change. Now, we just mentioned that poll. 56% of Americans would favor some sort of government shutdown if it resulted in real spending cuts. Is there anything conservatives can actually do to stop this deal at this point, Sarah? Because people seem like they're okay with the idea of a government shutdown, at least according to this poll.
That's something Republicans want to avoid because, as we've seen in the past, Democrats are so good at winning the messaging war when there is a government shutdown to blame it on Republicans. When we have this election coming up, that's a risk that some Republicans don't want to take. It's clear that spending is out of control, that something needs to be done. Most Americans recognize that. And that's where you see this frustration with Republican leadership in Congress coming from, is that people see the spending is out of control. Republicans in Congress recognize that the spending is out of control, and yet they're unable or unwilling to take the steps necessary to rein it in. And so if it takes a government shutdown to get those spending cuts done, then why aren't we doing that? And so that's where the disconnect between the base and the leadership of the Republican Party is coming from. All
right, so no easy task for Paul Ryan. Let's change topics a little bit. Jason Chaffetz is beginning the impeachment process for IRS Commissioner John Koskinen. Do you think this is going to backfire on House Republicans? It does seem like another one of those symbolic gestures.
It very well could be. I mean, this is a process that hasn't been used since 1876, so it's a really new phenomenon, and it would take a lot for this impeachment resolution to go through. I mean, first, a majority of the House would have to put forward articles of impeachment. Then the proceedings would have to go through in the Senate, and a 2/3 majority of the upper chamber would need to vote to remove Commissioner Koskinen. Now, you're looking at whether or not Commissioner Koskinen committed high crimes or misdemeanors, right? That's the language behind impeachment. Right. And so there's questions on both sides of the aisle about whether what Koskinen did, while it was unethical and while possibly, really obstructed the congressional investigations of IRS targeting, does that rise to the level of what we have previously considered impeachable offenses? And so that's the question that Congress will be looking at here.
Right. It's easy to be outraged by the DOJ not pursuing a real investigation here, but you kind of wince when you look back at the Benghazi Select Committee and how that didn't really work out the way everybody had hoped. Sarah Westwood of the Washington Examiner, thanks so much for your time. Great to have you with us, and hope to have you back real soon.
Thank you.
We should have strong immigration laws. But look, we're a nation of immigrants. People come for the right reason by and large, but we should pick and choose who comes. It should be our responsibility to control the border.
Tonight on Newsmax TV, Jeb Bush talks about immigration, here where he stands on the issue during part 3 of J.D. Hayworth's exclusive interview that's coming up tonight here at 8 p.m. Eastern Time during Newsmax Prime. And be sure to tune in for our special post-GOP debate coverage. Steve Malzberg will be joined by a host of experts, including former Alaska Governor Sarah Palin, J.D. Hayworth. I'll be there. Miranda will be there as well. We'll be giving you up-to-the-minute reaction and analysis and results of that debate. It all begins at 10 o'clock Eastern Time, or shortly right before that.